Hello and welcome back to another video with me, FPL Fab. In this video, we'll be talking about Game Week 22, even though I'm recording this while the Bournemouth game is going on. So currently I've surprisingly been able to get a green arrow up to 497k from 560k if I'm not wrong, based on the results of tonight's match, because some people have Tavernier, some people might still have Minte, and it might affect that ranking. So just reviewing the game week and how it went. The game week was it was a tough one. I mean, the fixtures in which we thought that there would be results, more so, or I'd say mostly Arsenal, ended up in a 0-0 draw, and other games as well just didn't turn out the way that it was panned out. But not that it's not good for football as a whole. Perhaps it would make it more interesting in terms of the title race and Arsenal in their quest for lifting the trophy in over 20 years. Now that they failed to capitalize this game week as they played Burnley, it ending 0-0. Then on the other hand, there was Carrick that stepped in as the interim coach after Amorim had been sacked. And Carrick seems to have brought life back to Manchester United. It's their results and also just their gameplay at whole is really impressive in terms of how it is that they played from the back, and also players that didn't have the trust of the manager before, being Mainu, had a really impressive game. And it only seems that he will continue to go from strength to strength in that midfield, especially playing the role that he's in. Dorgu didn't seem to be out of position in midfield, because as a wing back it seemed that he wasn't able to recover quick enough in terms of defense, but in the current position that he's playing, he's able to show his best attributes. And Bruno as well in the number 10 is so dangerous in terms of creativity, in terms of just himself as being a threat. So it's changed the whole landscape of FPL, I believe, in terms of the players to look out for. Or let me speak for myself. I had written off a lot of the Manchester United players, except for Bruno, leading up to his injury. But after his injury, I wasn't so sure how it is that he would bounce back. And it seems that he's recovered just fine. And not only has he recovered just fine, he's recovered and come back at a perfect time, where he's able to line up alongside players that are extremely confident. So him and his creativity seems that it will thrive in the future, especially under Carrick, and that is what had influenced my transfer this game week. I ended up using 2 of my 3 free transfers last game week. So this game week I was bumped up to 2 free transfers again, and currently I've used the 1 free transfer. I used it after Bruno's price rise, and even though his next fixture is Arsenal, I believe that after Arsenal his fixtures are pretty decent. So, and also based on how Arsenal is playing, I believe that Bruno might have an opportunity to shine in that game, or get points, that is. and I don't think that players or managers rather would be quick to buy him back based on his next fixture being Arsenal. But the reason why I brought him in is because Manchester only have one game a week, so he will be fully fit for that game. Arsenal are a bit thin, and fixtures for their fixtures are not as fortunate as Manchester's are. So their squad, I know, will be facing a lot of rotation, and in addition to rotation, the fatigued players that won't be rotated will be evident in the next few fixtures. So I'm hopeful that the squad will be managed well in terms of Arsenal's sake and their title hopes. But how it's looking logically, I don't think that with all the fixtures that there won't be any hiccups in terms of the Premier League. So how it is that I plan on lining up for Game Week 23, as I've mentioned, I've already used one of my 2 free transfers. I plan on rolling the other transfer because my squad does look pretty good. I mean, that sounds, really confident based on the results and everything that has been happening, but I can't seem to want to structure my squad any differently. Perhaps different players, but overall the same setup in terms of the squad and in terms of the players that I have in the teams that I've covered. So with that said, how it is I plan on lining up for Game Week 23 is Pope in goal against Aston Villa. Aston Villa seem to be on a downward trajectory ever since their recent run in good form. Only Watkins seems to be a threat, but with that said, the build-up and the squad in a whole in terms of threats created and chances created and player involvement such as Morgan Rogers or Tielemans, it is on a downward trajectory. So I'm pretty confident with Pope being in goal, though if I'm to be fully honest, I'm not 100% optimistic in terms of it being a clean sheet. Hopefully he'll be able to get enough saves in that game to get him a bonus or 2. Then in my defense, I plan on lining up with Cash, Thiaw and Alderte. This is dependent on if Gehi would have been passed to be fit for Manchester City, which I believe at this time would be the case. It's just that I'll then be fielding 4 Manchester City players. With that said, I'll be forced into a transfer, I believe next week, to get rid of one of my 4 Manchester City assets. So I might end up bringing in Gehi instead of Alderte versus West Ham, but again, Sunderland versus West Ham I believe would be a good fixture, because West Ham, aside from Callum Wilson, haven't been really threatening the goal. Bowen has been racking up defensive contributions but hasn't been able to get an assist or a goal. So again, that's not like the worst fixture, but Gehi is just much more of a solid defender. The questions that I would have is Manchester City and their current run in form, especially in defense. They seem to be in disarray, so I'm not all that confident in fielding Manchester City. In terms of defense, I'd much rather play their attackers, being the ones that I have, being Semenyo and Foden, and focus on that and give the Sunderland player the opportunity. One of my other 2 free transfers that I used last week was for Calvert-Lewin, and as I mentioned, anytime that I seem to own him, he seems to blank. So I'm just planning on not overthinking it and not forcing it either for this game week. So I've left him on the bench. And in my midfield, I plan on playing Wilson as he plays Brighton at home, Fulham that is, and my other midfield position rather is Semenyo as Manchester City plays Wolves at home as well. Then Declan Rice as Arsenal plays Manchester United at home. I believe that that's going to be a really tough fixture and interesting in terms of just a football watch generally. If Manchester United are going to be able to shave Arsenal's points in terms of Arsenal's quest of lifting the trophy in 20 plus years. The rivalry also would make it that much more interesting, the history that they have between the two clubs. So with the Manchester derby just having concluded, and then now it being Manchester United versus Arsenal, especially at this pivotal time, I believe it will be like a really interesting game. Then the other midfield spot is Bruno Fernandes as he plays Arsenal away. Arsenal have been really solid and resolute in their defense this season, and why it is that I'm backing Bruno is because, with that said about Arsenal's defense, Bruno has also just been really phenomenal, even playing in the pivot or the CDM position. He's still been able to rack up assists and goals. So now as a more free playing attacking midfield player, I believe that his route to points has increased just that much more, and I just wanted to grab him before he continues to rise in price. There are other players that I was considering, especially Chelsea assets because of their run-in fixtures, but because of all the rumors and unfortunate incidents at the club, the rumors being Enzo Fernandez possibly being sold to either PSG or Real Madrid, and also the internal struggles with the injuries that they're facing and trying to manage that. So it's just kind of tricky in terms of which Chelsea asset would I get in this good run of form that they have. In terms of midfield, there's no one else that I can really think of. Morgan Rogers, as I've mentioned, has been on a downward trajectory. Lafay of Sunderland, perhaps, but again, perhaps I don't have enough confidence in Sunderland to back someone like Lafay. And also weighing the options of Bruno Fernandes versus Lafay, I would much rather back Fernandes. Then my last midfield slot is going to be Foden as he plays Wolves at home. Foden's form has also been one of those that have been on a downward trajectory, and I'm thinking of perhaps even selling him in the near future. It's just I haven't been able to do so just yet and get someone like a Verts, which might have been a better option because of the fixtures that Manchester City have had and hopes of him getting higher points, but that hasn't been the case. I'm planning on giving him just like one more game week, and then if not, I might end up using my 2 free transfers next week. Who knows? I mean, could end up being that I end up playing my wild card. I am definitely thinking about bench boosting in the next coming weeks. Reason being is the first half of the season, I think that I left that chip until it was too late. Although I did get good points from it, not the best, but good points from it. I think that using the bench boost early in the season saves you a lot of headache in terms of players, minutes perhaps being managed, or all of that. But it is definitely squad dependent and much more recommended, especially when you have a solid bench. Then my forward line is going to be Haaland, as he faces Wolves at home. The captaincy is really up in the air at the moment. He's also been one of those players that have been on a downward trajectory in terms of blanking. I think this is his 7th blank in 9 game weeks, except for the one that he scored a penalty in. And in terms of captaincy, it ends up making it difficult to choose him, especially at this stage of the game where people are either chasing or trying to maintain a lead. It ends up being he's not like the definite pick that he was at the beginning of the season. My final forward slot is going to be Ekitike as they take on Bournemouth away. The reason why I'm still fielding Ekitike as opposed to Wirtz, or why I haven't scrambled my squad up to bring in Wirtz and bring in a different forward as opposed to Ekitike, is because the front line just hasn't been all that definitive rather in the Premier League this season. So there is really a lot to wrap my head around in terms of who's a better asset. Fixture wise, Liverpool's good fixture is coming to an end. So considering again someone like a Chelsea asset, someone like João Pedro, who did score this game week, might be the smart decision. Although again, João Pedro hadn't been on good form, and he might not continue to be on good form. So it's just a matter of perhaps being patient and monitoring, and then seeing who to navigate to. And on my bench, Dubravka is my goalkeeping bench as he plays Tottenham at home. I'm thinking perhaps fielding him because the teams that have been on the bottom half of the table have improved, especially in terms of defensively it's been harder to score against the Wolves and the Burnley and the Leeds in the past few game weeks. So it might be a good decision to actually switch out Pope to Dubravka for this specific game week, especially based on Tottenham's run form, as they haven't been performing all that well. Although Solanke is back from injury, so that might change their attacking approach at least. So it might be a better choice, but I'm not so sure that I might go through that. Then my other benching is, or my first bench is Timber as he takes on Manchester United at home. I think again I might end up switching Thiaw with Timber as Thiaw faces Aston Villa. Or maybe even Cash as he takes on Newcastle. It's really so tricky, especially for my defense this game week. Then my other benching is Calvert-Lewin as he takes on Everton away. And then my final bench slot currently is Gehi as he faces Wolves at home. That's how my squad looks like. That's how I plan on lining up. Best of luck to all the managers ahead of game week 23. Hopefully we'll be able to do another video by Friday just to have more clarity in terms of any leaks or news in the course of the week that may affect my team. Thanks for tuning in, and see you on the next one.